numbers to evaluate my business? How do I do that? That's a how question. That's a very legitimate how question, and I'm going to ask the first question about that. What numbers? When I say numbers, what am I talking about?
You got more than one question.
I got a lot of questions.
You're like Rodney Dangerfield's English professor, wherever he was, in Back to School. I got one question with 27 subparts.
That's,
here. Wait a minute.
That's exactly what we got here today.
All right.
So when you talk about running a business with numbers or by the numbers, what does that mean? What numbers are we talking about, Adam? 1, 2, 3 through 100? How do we look at the numbers? What numbers? Where do they come from?
Yeah, well, very simply, it would be a profit and loss and a balance sheet. Those would be where you start. But it's also this time of year. Yeah, this time of year, I think we're sitting here on April 10th, so tax time. People are thinking about taxes right now, so they're probably talking to CPAs. So a lot of these conversations are probably happening right now in terms of, hey, I'm seeing that I owe the government some money, Jack, but I'm looking at my bank account and that profit thing you're showing me here on my tax return. Well, how come it's not in the bank anymore? You know, how am I gonna pay this tax bill, Jack, if I don't have the cash? How do I have profit if there's no cash in the business? So there could be lots of numbers people are talking about.
I was talking to somebody over the weekend who was a small business owner, and I asked them about running their company by the numbers, and they were dutifully head nodding and saying, yeah, they do. And I said, well, what kind of numbers? That's why I'm asking you, because you have all the knowledge. You're Mr. Knowledge here. And they couldn't really tell me, so I started asking questions that clarified. A balance sheet? Do you know what a balance sheet is? There's a pause, and then a yes. I said, come on. I said, you don't know what a balance sheet is. You might have seen one, but you had no idea what's on there. Tell me what's on there. And they really couldn't. Then you got that embarrassed look again. And a profit and loss statement. Well, yeah, you take your sales and subtract your expenses, and you get profit. I said, do you use that? I said, what's on there? I said, it's probably the most powerful tool that you could use to run your business. And it went like that in typical fashion, which we have experienced so often, that people being small business owners do not understand their financial statements.
Yeah, but when it comes to numbers, some of the most common numbers we hear about will be sales or some version of sales, right? We've got invoices or sales, something like that, of stuff going out. People usually will be able to talk about accounts receivable, about cash, accounts payable, maybe payroll. And then again, it isn't all brought together either on a...
That's the key.
Yeah, it's not brought together.
Right.
Whether it be in profit and loss or in a balance sheet or a cash forecast, but it's snippets of it, little bits and pieces, and
this person told me one of your favorite things too.
I got a lot of favorite things.
Well, this one is the most favorite, and that's it. Well, I know if I have cash in my checkbook that things aren't too bad. That's what they exactly said.
He asked him if he's making money. That's what he said, right? Yeah, because I have money in the bank.
No, he was still trying to explain himself out of knowing a profit and loss where he didn't know it.
Well, we had a very interesting discussion with a new potential client here, and we were talking with her about what her sales were. So I should probably know what that is. Hold on, let me go into my QuickBooks account, and she dutifully went in and logged in, and which report should I look at? So we could tell she's not operating company this way, and she wasn't pretending to either. Unlike your friend you met over the weekend here, Jack, she was very upfront. Hey, I don't really use this stuff. So we went on there, and she was able to find what her sales were, and because they were doing all the invoicing out of QuickBooks, it was in there. We said, well, how about, so that's the top line. That's one of the phrases people use for sales is top line. We said, well, how about your profit or net income or the bottom line? Go all the way to the bottom of that report, right? And wouldn't you know it, that I think her expenses were about, was it 1% or 2%? So anyway, her net income, net profit was 98% of her sales, right?
So is that
good?
She had no expenses.
No expenses. So that's pretty good, right? But what we discovered was that through a few quick questions was she was just writing checks for most things. I mean, physically writing checks, not going through any system. But she had her checkbook, had the ledger kind of going, so she'd write checks for payroll, for bills from vendors for supplies, or it might be. But so she was writing checks.
But they were never entered.
They were never entered. Yeah, they're never entered into QuickBooks because QuickBooks is just there to do the invoicing, and then so they'd give that plus her ledger plus some receipts. There used to be boxes of receipts that she discussed, which is not unusual either, to the CPA. So as much as I don't say we knock CPAs, we'll beat them up a little bit. We have some empathy for them as far as what they see or encounter in terms of what people give them. So boxes of receipts are still fairly common in
Very
today's
much
world,
so, that's right.
which most people are surprised by, Jack. So there's a lot of kind of numbers floating around. So as we're talking here, just for these first few minutes of the show here, Jack, I think people's eyes are probably starting to roll because numbers are all over the place. As you're talking numbers, I'm thinking about what was that Russell Crowe movie with Beautiful Mind, right? And he had all kinds of numbers going through his, and those are very sophisticated formulas. It doesn't have to be that way.
So how do they work? How do these financial, if it's such a beautiful thing, if it's such a wonderful thing, how do they work, Adam? See all those how questions,
Well, they don't.
Sub-how questions under
I know,
the
you're
big
getting,
how question.
are we number 3 or 4 right now? So
I know.
you got at least 27 of them.
A word about how questions is that they're never ending, and they can be slotted and categorized all over the place. Because they're never ending, you can keep talking about how questions, and
Well,
it's okay.
if I give you another how question, if I give you a why question, which is why are these important? Why should I be looking at these numbers? I think it's part of where we spend time with our clients, because some know that they should be looking at them, but most of them think, why do I need more than my handful of things, versus logging in every morning, looking at my bank balance. If I'm checking my receivables and know we're collecting there, if I know who's coming at us for bills, if I'm paying my debts off, again, why do I need to look at this full P&L or balance sheet or cash forecast?
That's right.
Why not do that?
That's
right?
a good why question.
So I think people will probably ask that, and we should maybe address that first versus how, because they don't care about how until they understand the why.
Well, it gives you a historical snapshot for starters. Okay, that's what a financial statement, being a balance sheet or a profit and loss, that's what they'll give you. So you can have a history of the activity. All the activity that goes on to your company basically can be summarized in a few pages of numbers. That's one broad use, and the other broad use is basically once you get this down in the format, you can project your company, which is vital. Planning.
Okay, so
putting values on those plans.
Still not quite at why. You're getting closer to the why. I think.
I know. You're gonna swing in and give me the answer.
I'll give you the answer. Yeah.
I thought you were gonna do that.
I will. It's like a nice warm fuzzy blanket on a cold winter's night, Jack. It gives you tremendous comfort.
Well, it gives you comfort. If the numbers look good.
Well, no, I'm trying to understand why should somebody care about this?
That's right.
Because most owners you meet.
That's two why questions.
No, so why should they care about the numbers? No. I'm repeating the same why question. If I repeat it, that's not two. That's just the same one repeated twice. So why should they care? That's the important thing. Most owners.
Sounds new to me, but that's okay.
Most owners. We'll have to go back to the tape later. Most owners are in a state of discomfort, panic at times. They aren't sure. They aren't sure what's coming in. They aren't sure that they're going to have enough money for whether it be for payroll, for that new great client coming up, or whatever it might be. They don't know, and they're often frozen from making decisions to be able to move forward. We're often amazed, Jack, that people can make these choices and run the companies without having this stuff. They do, and they're functioning by it, and so. There are ways to function throughout life, too, that maybe aren't the best way to go. But as an owner, to help get you some very, very good comfort. So let's talk about that when we come back from our break here, Jack, in terms of how do you gain comfort. I think most owners would like to have a little more comfort as part of their business. So stay tuned. We'll be back to talk more about the numbers and why they're important and how to make some sense of them. I'm Adam Sonhalter.
And I'm Jack Mancini. We're business coaches, and our company is Maximum Value Partners. And we help people being small business owners, get unstuck from a state of how.
Stay tuned for more Dirty Secrets of Small Business on Integrity Radio, WINT 1330 AM. The new